Power Extreme is also the name of my favorite poppers, Andrew, and this is Gayties Toys. Today I'm recording not hungover, so kudos me. Any flubs are entirely my own fault. Today we're talking about 1986's Centurions, both the Kenner toy line as well as the cartoon, which featured Crystal Kane as well as her orangutan Lucy. I don't like monkeys. We gotta talk about it. There's two women, one property. How could I not? Centurion started out as a 5-part miniseries by Ruby Spears, which is a name we don't hear very often, that later became a full series and had 65 additional episodes. It's centered, somewhere in the near future where cyborgs were, prolific. There was one cyborg in particular, Doc Terror, which when you name a cyborg Doc Terror, expect the worst. Centurions were brought together, 3 white dudes who had these almost like exosuits, and when they screamed "Power Extreme," they would, get all this like just extra guns, missiles, whatever the actual, mission needed them to have, and they would go out and, showcase whatever toy they were hawking that week. The toys by Kenner were very much, in this sort of vein where all the, action figures had just ports all over them that you could put, all these extra accessories on. It was very much almost kind of like a Barbie model where you buy the figure, maybe a few guns you can attach onto it, but then you could buy like, Barbie with a new hat and a new, missile launcher and, sort of create a whole new dynamic to the same character. The topic of this video is Crystal Kane, who's sort of their woman in the sky. She is quite literally in orbit in a station called Sky Vault, and she's the one who sort of, looks for missions for them to go on and literally beams down Star Trek style their, incredible machinery to slap on. The actual ethics of battling cyborgs with human-machine hybrids is never explored, but I feel someone more eloquent than I should perhaps use it. One thing about her as a character is that, within the cartoon, it seems like they were trying to romantically link her up to Ace. He was constantly like asking her for smooches, constantly like, just on her ass constantly about hooking up, and she was like, yeah, no, I mean, like any beleaguered 80s woman in an office setting was all like, haha, like, thanks, but no. And this culminated in one episode where he was going to go on essentially a suicide mission, and she said, look, come back safe. And he said, I'll do it if I get a kiss. And she's like, yeah, whatever, fine. He comes back, puts them on video screen to his friends so they can watch him basically sexually assault her. I mean, this was like office place sexual assault, man. Like, there's no two ways about it, and it's just baffling that this was a romantic thing for them. This was for kids. This was like, basically like, hey kids, this is probably what your dad's doing at the office. Crystal was very often, seen with her orangutan Lucy. Why she had an orangutan Lucy, I don't like monkeys. Any monkey of any kind. At least Lucy didn't talk, but like I don't mess with monkeys. On the flip side, one of the Centurion's dogs, Shadow, was there, and he was adorable. He was a very good boy. If I were to compare Crystal to a contemporary of 80s ladies, I think it would be Janine Melnitz from The Real Ghostbusters. Both women are, definitely the woman who stays behind and sort of, assigns missions. They both, that's not necessarily like, jump into action, but they are capable of doing so. They both have, either, Ghostbuster suits or exosuits themselves. Crystal herself featured one that was very much in her colors, likewise covered in ports. She wore that in both the comics and the cartoon, and, was very toyetic. In theory, she could have had a toy. But she did not. There are images floating around of what Wave 2 would have consisted of. One being, a Native American character who brought some very welcome diversity, but a woman was a step too far. This is odd because this was Kenner in 1986. They were starting to go in this direction, but simultaneously, Janine, made by Kenner, had 4 figures, almost as many as Princess Leia. So it's odd that this was the hill they were going to die on. One other note about Crystal I have to make is that there's this misconception, if not a downright trope, that women in these cartoons are always being kidnapped, always used as hostages, and that's just not true. It happens. It's certainly a very big plot point for a lot of cartoons. He-Man, you name it. But they're never any more, kidnapped than their male compatriots. Crystal, however, breaks that mold. I mean, half the series, she was kidnapped. That was, the point of so many episodes. And it came to the point where you had to stop and think, like, are you okay? Like, are you looking to get kidnapped? Like, not to victim blame, but like, this is more than many times. Also, Crystal was voiced by Diane Pershing, who was more famous for voicing Poison Ivy in Batman the Animated Series, and that just gives her props for that. This is a bit of a weird final verdict, because officially, she's never been made. Unofficially, there is one. It's from a bootleg company. I don't know where. I'm going to say overseas. I don't read Chinese or whatever the packaging says. But she looks pretty good. For a bootleg, she and her other 3 Centurions look fantastic as a set. They don't have any extra, guns, missiles, yada yada. But I mean, like, they're a cute little set altogether. No Lucy, unfortunately. The other big problem with this is that she's 5 inches tall, and Centurions are 8 inches. So unless you hide her behind a desk with computer banks, she's not really going to blend in seamlessly with your original vintage collection. From bootleg to, let's say, third party, Ramen Toys has made a line called 80s Commanders, which are absolutely not Centurions. This was a few years ago, and the first 3 figures of the original 3 characters were actually, well received. It seems like the sales were there. When they started to do more beyond 3, I feel less confident about how the sales have worked out for that. There was a bit of asking for support. So I don't know if that's going to continue. It was very much a landmark of Ramen Toys early on in their sort of big launch, but I don't think Crystal or Lucy are really in the cards at this moment. So as it stands, the bootleg, and maybe if Ramen does come and revisit it, that was the only options to get Crystal and Lucy. As it stands now, I wouldn't expect them. And that's it for Crystal Kane and her cursed monkey orangutan Lucy. If you like this video, please comment, share, like, subscribe, and I will see you next time on Gayties Toys.